Welcome to the Intersect, where academia, industry, and the DoD meet. Today it's my pleasure to introduce Greg Touhill. Greg, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Today we're going to discuss a wide range of things, but really centered on an interesting publication. Recently, you offered predictions for cybersecurity in 2025. 13 topics in total. And I think we could do one of these on each of those topics. But today, I think we're going to give folks a survey and maybe deep dive on a few of those.
Okay.
But before we get into that, I think it's important to note that you're drawing on experience here as the director of CERT, but also as someone that's worked in the administration as the first federal CISO, and also a very long career in the military as part of the U.S. Air Force. So I think in the spirit of the Intersect, you are the intersectiest of the Intersect guests I think I've had. So let me offer this as the first topic. The first item, and we won't do all of these in order, the first topic on your list was the idea of a digital poverty line, essentially understanding that not all organizations have the same means or resources to deal with a threat environment that is dynamic and challenging. So, Greg, maybe just thoughts about, I don't think this is necessarily in the order of priority, but it's a great starting point. So thoughts about that digital poverty line.
Right. Well, thanks very much for that. I don't know who came up with the term, the cyber poverty line, but I think it's really apropos to the environment that we have today in the cyber domain and really in the business environment, because cybersecurity is a risk management issue that affects every organization as a key business issue. I define the cyber poverty line as the amount of cost it takes to achieve compliance with the NIST Special Publication 800-171, which really defines the basic security controls to best protect organizations. And that could be a military organization, a government organization, an academic organization, or more prevalent, a business. Mm-hmm. And as we take a look at those costs, folks say out of regulators that in government as well as other organizations, you got to hit all of the controls in 800-171. And there's other related standards that are out there. 800-53 comes to mind. But ultimately, all of these different security controls come with a monetary cost. And if you add them up, it becomes very daunting, especially for small and medium businesses who don't necessarily have, a whole lot of capital to expend just on cybersecurity controls. Their business is designed to make a profit and make money for their shareholders. And if the cost of cybersecurity is too high for them to make a profit, then it becomes problematic about entry into the digital marketplace. So as we take a look at the advent of new technologies in the hands of adversaries, such as nation-state actors, bad actors, cyber criminal groups, and such, they're using things like AI and other new technologies, and they're using them to attack, which means, we've got to up our game on our security controls. We need to be very cautious right now as a cyber community that the cost to secure remains affordable. It has to be feasible, acceptable, suitable against the threat, and affordable. And right now, I'm seeing us trending in the wrong direction, where the cost to secure is continuing to climb, but the cost to attack continues to descend. We need to get in better balance, and that's a challenge for not only us as researchers to help find and discover new ways of making security as economical as possible, but for the marketplace, for vendors and those folks who are providing capabilities to make the cost affordable so America's small and medium businesses can survive and thrive in a hotly contested cyber environment.
Thanks, Greg. So what we're hearing is that we have a threat environment that leaves no place for these economic decisions. We must mitigate the risk as best possible, but there's techniques we can apply to focus on the critical few or ensure maximum efficacy of the things that we're doing. And I think also, just to kind of explore that slightly, I think we'd agree that not all controls are created equal, in the sense that we should understand the coverage and benefit of these things, and be very selective and careful when we mandate them. That's what I think I'm hearing.
I agree. And the thing about it too is as a business, and I've had a stint in industry. I've been on numerous boards of directors. In companies, we don't want the government to mandate to us what our risk thresholds are.
Mhm.
And we need to be very careful as a broad cyber community to make sure that we tee up and be able to quantify and qualify risk. But on the same token, as we are looking soberly at our security controls, we need to get out of our technical mindset and think like a business person. Because if you are a chief information security officer, you are a senior business executive. And that's really where you need to make informed cyber risk decisions through the concept or the lens of the enterprise risk management concept. And you may take some risks in some areas because that's the best business decision to make. So I think that as we take a look into the crystal ball of 2025, there's going to be a lot of small and medium businesses that are going to be compelled to take higher risk in the digital and cyber domain because they just can't afford some of the security controls that are out there to combat the most sophisticated and most capable threats.
Thanks, Greg. I did have to mention to the audience that your blog is available on the SCI website and also be linked as a component of the materials that you'll see while watching our discussion. I should also point out that the SCI has done really good work in risk reasoning and finding ways to prioritize your controls in relation to the threats you face. So I'd also encourage the audience to explore the set of free resources that we have here on the SCI website, but also the free resources that are offered by the federal government and other partners.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And we've worked with other organizations as well. I'll give a shout out to the National Association of Corporate Directors, who's taken the work that we've done and put that as the keystone of their certification programs for members of the boards of directors, and making sure that America's boards of directors are hardened and understand the cyber risks that are out there so they can make informed risk decisions.
Yeah, it's important to remind ourselves that the topic of cyber extends to the entire governance stack, to the very top of the organization.
Absolutely.
So, Greg, you made a reference to AI, and certainly in 2025, we were remiss to discuss any of these topics without understanding the way that they'll be influenced and influence AI. So this enormously transformative force in society and in technology. And in your blog, you reference some specific elements of the AI challenge. I was hoping we could explore those now.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think it's important for our audience to recognize that I believe that AI is just that next generation of supercompute, something that was in science fiction a short time ago, but we always aspired to have it. It's kind of like in Star Trek, yesterday's communicators from Captain Kirk are now today's smartphones and tricorders all rolled into one. So I think as we take a look at AI, it's really the next generation. And it's really transforming a whole lot of different aspects of our society. It's transforming our economy, how we educate ourselves, how we communicate amongst ourselves, our social media fabric. AI is a wonderful thing. What could possibly go wrong with it? And in my blog and my prognostications, I have two AI-centered thoughts on that. The first is that what we've been looking for, and I put in there that for the last 2 decades, I've been looking into the science fiction aspects of AI and saying, boy, I really could use some AI help to assist my people on the security teams identify, characterize, and act on targets. Things that are attacking me. I need an AI wingman to help me out in dealing with that tidal wave of cyber attacks against us. Well, sadly, 2024's Christmas came and Santa didn't deliver that capability. It's been promised over the last 2+ decades, and we've seen some movement towards it, but it's not there yet. But that doesn't mean that we should discourage the marketplace or say, oh, well, we were defeated last year. No, we're making progress, but hurry it up, industry, because we really do need AI for cyber. Help us on the cyber defense side of the house maintain the integrity of our business systems, our command and control systems, the digital engines that drive our economy and protect us in our national security. We really need that capability. Sadly, I'm not thinking that it's going to be under the tree this coming Christmas in December of 2025, but it's now at the top of my Christmas wish list. The second is, I said, first one was AI for cyber. Well, our studies here at the Software Engineering Institute and Carnegie Mellon University indicate that we have a long way to go on cyber for AI itself. As we saw this movement of acceleration on the creation of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we created the AI Security and Incident Response Team in 2023. So coming up on almost 2 years since we've created this. And we were seeing a lot of vulnerability reports and different incidents that were being reported to the CERT and through our responsibilities as the CERT Coordination Center for the whole world. And we were seeing and continue to see incidents where folks are taking advantage of flaws or defects in code base. We're seeing attacks against collective code repositories. We have GitHub in the cyberspace. We have Hugging Face and other repositories specifically tuned for AI repositories. We've been seeing attacks against data, poisoning attacks and such. And we've seen malicious activity directed towards the hardware and the firmware and the infrastructure for AI. Combined, all of that is very alarming. And that's really reinforced the notion that we have here at CERT, that as a collective community, we need to do a much better job from the very beginning of securing the AI systems and all of the components, the data, the hardware, the code, the personnel, the architectures, the development processes of AI themselves. I call that cyber for AI. And I think we as a community need to step up our game on that and improve through deliberate, secure by design actions, the ability to harden all the aspects of AI from cyber attack, exploitation, reconnaissance, and all the different weaknesses that could be exploited for somebody else's gain, and weaken the efficacy, the accuracy, and the reliability, and perhaps even the accessibility of AI tools and systems that we trust.
That is excellent advice, Greg. And I really like the way you framed that, the set of challenges, right? So AI will become an enabler that allows us to do things in cybersecurity faster, cheaper, better, but also it expands our attack surface in new and novel ways. I think also in your description, I'm hearing that we should build on the fundamentals that we've constructed over the last 40 years and apply those lessons to this new domain. And I think that's a really reassuring message, which AI is certainly new and novel, but it's fundamentally built on things we understand. And that should give our audience, I think, a good deal of hope that sometimes this is positioned as an intractable problem. I don't believe that, and you don't believe that. And as an institute, we don't believe that.
No, absolutely. And one thing that I think is noteworthy is the work that the AI CERT team has been leading, along with our colleagues in the SEI, the Software Engineering Institute, and the work we're doing with our colleagues on campus, the folks in industry. We've collaborated on research with OpenAI and other leading organizations in the artificial intelligence discipline. It's important to leverage the lessons learned from cybersecurity's maturity and how that discipline has grown and apply it for best effect in the AI domain. An example is pen testing and red teaming.
Yes.
We have a very fulsome line of applied research and development activities that is demonstrating the positive effects of pen testing and red teaming early in the development process, as opposed to later on. And then further, if you are looking to acquire, let's say, AI as a service, how do you pick the winner, which is the best fit for you? Well, we're developing criteria through our research and development activities that help inform what kind of questions should you be asking. How do you align your requirements with the best capability to meet your need? There's lots of flavors of AI, and you don't want to necessarily overbuy, you don't want to underbuy, but you want to get the best buy and the best value. And that's really excites me from the standpoint of being the CERT director, seeing how our AI CERT and our AI engineering teams are working together along with our software solutions teams to make sure that we have the best game plan available for the government, the military, and industry so that we up our game for America.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes us such a special place to work, and it's why I feel privileged to be part of the team. Let's move from AI to a discussion of organic carbon-based assets, and those are people.
Yeah, so the wetware.
The wetware. I love that term. So in the blog, you explain that the struggle to find qualified folks in sufficient quantity is not going to likely abate in 2025. So thoughts about the workforce and some of the challenges organizations may face.
Well, I've been a member of ISC Squared, which is a professional organization of cyber professionals. I've been a member for decades now. And ISC Squared does the world a service by doing their annual survey of cyber workforce gaps. They've been doing that for many years now. And the number continues to climb around the world. We've made some progress here in North America, but around the world, it continues to be a big problem. But I take a look at some programs that I've been involved in, such as the National Initiative on Cyber Education, the initiatives not only that ISC Squared, but ISACA, another professional organization of auditors, controllers, and cyber professionals.
I'm a proud member.
And lots of different organizations have been trying to buy down that cyber workforce gap by, hey, let's retool certain people and reskill them to do those jobs, and let's advance our academic and educational pipelines so we get more people coming into these fields. That's all noble. We don't want to stop that. But I think we're treating the symptoms, not the cause, and we need to really, as a community of interest, take a step back and say, well, we keep on putting another layer of paint on here with these very noble and productive programs to get folks more cyber training and education. But what's really at the root cause of these? And as for me, I look at it and complexity is the heart of the problem. Complexity is the bane of security. If you go to your favorite search engine and you put Touhill and complexity, you'll see I've been talking about this for well over 10 years. We need to work with industry to create products that are secure out of the box, that all the craft, the garbage code that's in there needs to be taken out, like an angioplasty, to make it much more effective, efficient, and secure. It's ludicrous to me that you go and you buy a product and then you have to go pay another fee just to learn how to optimize your use of it.
Yeah.
If I went to go buy a new car and I've already got a driver's license, I don't have to go through another driving school to learn how to drive a car. The automobile manufacturers spend the time to work on the ergonomics, and they give me a product that is ready to go when I drive it off the lot. I think when it comes to software, we could do a much better job with the software products to take the yoke of complexity off the shoulders of the users and make the software shoulder the complexity to make it harder for the adversaries to break it and make it secure right out of the box. I think we need to really get to the root cause of what's causing that cyber workforce gap. And I think it's complexity in products.
It makes so much sense, Greg, that as you described, it's kind of a strange situation. I think it's also worth noting that AI won't obviate the need to train your workforce. So we train them differently, but in itself, AI represents a training challenge. And another set of complexity questions potentially and explainability questions will emerge. One of the themes in the blog that I think is important to point out is complexity and opacity. So you mentioned this in a few places. So I was hoping we could talk a little about supply chain, where I believe complexity is another major driver to the issues we face. I think it's another one of those situations where we should look at the root cause. But thoughts about the supply chain, both from the limited visibility that we may have and how to create justifiable confidence in our partners.
Yeah, it's a really difficult issue right now because most folks don't know where their software came from, who touched it, who created it, who edited it, maybe added a little bit of salsa to it to make it extra spicy. We look at cybersecurity as a risk issue, but as we take a look at the supply chains, there's a inherent risk factor that's in there where folks kind of inherently assume that, oh, this is good right out of the box, and not necessarily understanding what's behind the software, what's its provenance, where did it come from, and has it been tested each and every step along the way to make sure it is devoid of any defects, flaws, or things that could be perverted into a dreadful weapon. And as we take a look at some things that have been attempted in the past, we've seen, like in the 2014 timeframe, a member of the DHS team, Joe Jarzenbeck, spearheaded some activities with some of his friends and colleagues across government, industry, and the academic world to try to get, basic, like a nutrition label or underwriter's lab type of third-party attestation as to the efficacy of the code base. We're seeing a resurrection of that of late, but we haven't hit the sweet spot yet. I think as we take a look at folks who are building out code, particularly for things like artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities, critical infrastructure, Internet of Things, AI for everything, and such, life critical things like medical devices, you really need to have a much better insight into where that software is coming from and what its risk and resilience factors are in order to best execute your mission and understand your risk. And as you are looking at making deliberate decisions on what security controls to implement to best protect your business, if you don't have insight into that code base that fuels your business, you're not going to be making the best decisions from a risk standpoint. And you may inadvertently open your company to even greater risk.
Sure. Right. And I think it's important to remind ourselves that the objective isn't to reduce risk to zero. That's not a tenable goal.
That's right.
We have to keep risk within our tolerance. So that's our appetite and risk attitude. And that, I think, harkens back to the first discussion about the economics of this, right? So we can't fool ourselves in thinking that we're going to manage out all risk. We must deal with residual risk. And that's why I think resilience is really the objective beyond security. But There's something else I would like to pivot to. And I know this is a specific point of great interest and concern for you, and I share this enthusiasm for the topic. If I think about deprecated technologies and the long trail of the attack surface, that brings me to a discussion of VPNs. So I know you make the point in the blog that VPNs remain a pain point, and maybe an unusual one. Do you want to unpack that for us, please, Greg?
Well, I think virtual private networks, VPNs, have done great things for the cyber community, but they were created about the same time as Derek Jeter was a rookie in the the Yankees organization. He's now in the Baseball Hall of Fame, justifiably so. But they also came out when the Palm Pilot came out. Now I have a Palm Pilot on static display in my office. I should have brought it here as a prop today. But as you take a look at what VPNs pioneered, VPNs were awesome in the late 90s because it provided the first commercially available secure remote access capability. Basically, if you're transmitting from point A to point B, I use a VPN on both sides to encrypt traffic so that you, that hostile third party, couldn't intercept my traffic and read my mail. Awesome capability for secure remote access. But with time, adversaries were able to figure out what those fundamental flaws were in the VPNs. But also, people started referring to VPNs as a definitive nickname for secure remote access. Much as some folks say, oh, instead of give me a facial tissue, give me a Kleenex. Or get me some Reynolds wrap instead of aluminum foil.
Xerox this, right?
Or Xerox this as opposed to photocopy. So we've had a conflation there where some folks said, oh, for secure remote access, I've always got to go to VPN. VPN at its heart is elderly technology that's proven itself brittle in the face of hostility. We continue to see numerous VPN technologies being breached and attacked by attackers ranging from nation state actors to cyber criminal groups. And I think secure remote access is essential. I think there's some more modern technologies, such as the software-defined technologies, and software-defined perimeter is a great example of that. There's new, more modern technologies. We need to get past our technical debt, but we also need to get past our nicknames and get to more modern capabilities, because that's going to buy down our risk in the long run.
And that's really the objective, is buying down risk, not eliminating risk, because that's not possible.
Right. And you've got to be resilient, because you're going to take a cyber punch, but you got to keep on going. Anybody who's had a brother, and we were talking about this before we started today, when was the last time you got punched in the face? Well, it was by my brother. But I got up and I kept on going.
Dust yourself off and keep going.
That's right.
So, Greg, I think we're in this interesting era where organizations are they're starting to introduce very sophisticated AI technologies and soon quantum technologies. But the digital debt load, the balance sheet of technologies and complexity means you're contending with legacy issues at the same time you're trying to do things that are wholly innovative and new, and striking that balance is important. So I know we're approaching the end of our session, but I had a question for you. There's something that really piqued my interest. You mentioned giving responsibilities to others in the forms of managed service providers.
Yeah.
And I know, and something we discuss with our exec ed students, is that often it feels like you have very little visibility. You're relying on a SOC report or something equivalent. Thoughts for our audience about how best to establish verifiable trust and confidence in a third party?
That's we could do a whole episode on
that. And I hope we do someday.
Yeah. I believe that managed security service providers, or MSSPs, are a fact of life good thing in the marketplace, particularly for small and medium businesses. If you are a small and medium business and you are looking at that cyber poverty line and saying, I can't get myself over that cyber poverty line, I need to do a cost benefit analysis as to what my options are. I believe in evaluating several different MSSPs is a good business practice. And take a look at, what if I do it myself? What's the cost and what are the benefits? And match that up against going down the MSSP route. Now, if you are going to go through the MSSP route, one of the questions you should be asking from a risk standpoint is what measures of effectiveness are you going to be able to provide me to demonstrate that I'm getting what I'm paying for? Do you have independent third-party auditors that can come in and assess your organization, Mr. or Miss MSSP, and make that available to me so that I can assess my ongoing risk as to whether or not you're meeting your obligations? I don't want to necessarily trust that you're going to give me a fair and unambiguous view of your risk. I'd like to have an independent third party. Have those conversations with the MSSPs. It is a hotly contested market. There are some market leaders that are out there, but if you don't ask, it'll still be a black box and completely invisible to you. And you may be assuming risks that you don't know that you have.
You have to be a smart consumer of all these things.
Absolutely.
So, Greg, I have one last prediction that I'd like you to offer. So in 2025, there's a sports contest coming this weekend in New Orleans. And we have two teams facing off. We have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Your final prediction of this Intersect, Chiefs or Eagles?
I think Steeler fans everywhere will enjoy the Super Bowl as we admire our 6 trophies in Acrisure Stadium. But being Pennsylvanians, there's only one choice. Fly, Eagles, fly.
I think I agree with you, Greg. And thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for joining us online.